Hey everybody, welcome back to a new episode of D&D Quick Shots. I am Brandon, the DM, and once again we are answering some questions off of Reddit. Now this one I really thought was an interesting one only because I had to actually look up a piece I haven't actually seen in some time. So it says, I'm about to begin DMing a campaign with the Zweihander RPG. I have a party of 8 players, with half of their characters being more combat oriented and the other half being more socially oriented. I don't have much trouble designing combat scenarios, but I do struggle to come up with interesting social encounters. Does anyone have any ideas or advice on non-combat encounters or quests I could use? So this is a really interesting thing I love to talk about. Stay tuned and we'll definitely dive into a little more deep convo on this. All right, so social encounters, how to make them interesting, how to make them fun, how to create quests out of them. That's the general concept here. So the first part of social encounters is it comes down to what you're wanting to achieve. If you're looking for mainly players to just interact with the world, it's a lot easier to build out and flesh out some kind of bureaucracy, right? And it doesn't really matter what that bureaucracy is. Let's just say it's a local town who puts up on one of the boards, hey, monster hunting. But in order to get the monster hunters, you have to go out and you have to get a license. And not only do you have to go and get a license, you have to go and get approval from this guy over here in this guild. And once you actually get the approval from the guy in the guild, maybe there's a fee you got to go pay to somebody else, but that person's on vacation, right? So throwing bureaucracy, generally speaking, into things, it does make things a little more complicated, and it can be like, oh God, now we got to go do this. But it's a real easy way to generate people having to go do basic level things because they're comfortable with it in their real life, right? If you treat the DMV as most of your bureaucracy, it'll make things a lot simpler for people to understand, like, okay, this is what I've got to go do now. The other side of it that makes it really fun, if you're looking to try and increase social interaction as a whole, is in the back of the DMG, there's actually in the Dungeon Master's Guide, in the D&D 5e at least, there's a lot of artifacts and there's a lot of things that have a whole lot of storyline built into them. Create your side quests to do with something with one of those artifacts, stating, hey, so-and-so is going to pay you to go take care of this, but they don't want any blood on the hands. They don't want this to be a blood diamond scenario where you're killing everything in sight to recover an artifact. They maybe know it's in some museum somewhere, and they'd like you to recover it for them. Creating the heads up from the get-go, like, hey, this isn't a blooding mission. This is a mission that you're going to have to use tact and wit and social skills to accomplish. So that's a really fun way to do things as well, is that the artifacts don't always have to be hidden in a lost temple some out in the middle of nowhere. They can be in public over at this museum that they're just not willing to give it up. Same kind of thing, it could belong to a individual who has it in their collection, and maybe this person wants to get it as part of their collection now. The more that you can build out and make a kind of more realistic thing, when I say realistic, we're talking, in the real world, if there is something that's out there, either somebody has it or you've got to find it, and once you find it, you probably got to buy it or you're going to have to do something to get it. Very rarely in the real world can you just go shoot first, ask questions later. And that's kind of the way I would treat it if you're trying to build social interaction. Now, if you're trying to build the social interaction between the players, especially for the combat players, that makes things a little more complicated. People don't like to be left out, but if they're socially inept and they really, gear towards the proficiencies of combat, you've got to be able to find a good balance, right? So what I would say is that, task half of the players with, going to retrieve this thing while tasking the other half to operate as guard duty or whatever you want to call it, and let them know, that they should be looking out for competing people trying to gain that same interest. If I say, hey, listen, I need you to go pick this up. Not only do I want it, but I know this guy over here also has a group of adventurers going out for it, and those guys are a little more bloodthirsty. They're willing to do the worst possible, and we don't want you to do that, so on and so forth. It does make for an interesting competing game plan from the side by side. So there's a lot of options to grow social interaction while making the players, stay focused on what's going on, and gives you a lot of options as a DM not to have to say, okay, you hit this guy, let's keep going. So that's my advice on things. I hope you guys enjoyed. Like and subscribe. If you have any questions, definitely post them in the comments. Pop them out in Reddit, and I'll be continuing to do this, Reddit questionnaires here and there. So thanks again for checking us out here on YouTube. Have a great day.